To make sure you are ready for your performance and for your audience, you don't only need good speaking skills, you also need good writing skills. You need to plan beforehand what is going to happen. In this video, I want to walk you through a few fundamental, important rules for writing for public speaking. Because we want to serve our audience, how can we take that into account? Let's start with how you start. I see often students first giving an introduction about what is happening and thanks for being here and this is me and I'm about to start my speech and then I start my speech, losing already 20 seconds of their time. Because remember, your audience decides within a minute and a half, maybe a bit more, whether they will pay attention to you or not. Why not start straight away? And why not start with a bang, so that you immediately activate your audience, engage them, involve them, and trigger their own thoughts. You need to make them curious about what you are going to do. I want to walk you through a few ways how you can start active, make them, ready immediately. So the first way you can start is with a question to involve your audience. For this, you immediately activate them on the topic and start a connection, start a communication with your audience. So an example would be, please raise your hand if you are a big fan of PowerPoint presentations. So there you already reveal the topic and you already get an indication of how these people think about it. Another way to get them thinking is a question to trigger thoughts. This is a more open question, a more general philosophical question. For example, have you ever wondered why PowerPoint presentations are so boring? So you don't immediately want an answer, you don't need to hear, like yes or no or this or that, but you already activate their minds on the topic. Then you can start with a bold statement. And it should be bold and brief. So a short sentence. For example, PowerPoint kills your presentation. So immediately you make them aware of your statement, your perspective. And then later you can elaborate on why you think this is the case. Now, depending on your audience, you will choose the best suitable way to start. So for a more scientific and formal audience, what can work really well is to start with a shocking scientific fact. Make sure it's a fact and not something you believe. So, based on a scientific article that I wrote, I can give you this example. Within 10 minutes, 98% of your audience will not pay attention anymore to your PowerPoint presentation. So then you give, another way to start the conversation. And finally, you can start with an anecdote, straight away. I was so bored in university that I taught myself how to write with my right hand, even though I'm left-handed. Which is just a little experience that I had. An anecdote can activate the imagination of your audience straight away. This was too brief to really see anything. But you can imagine if you have a good anecdote that immediately the mind's eye can join the performance. And it gives a feeling of connection because you're sharing something personal. So depending on your audience, you can choose the most suitable way to start. Also, you can not only use this at the start, also later in your speech or presentation, you can add one of these shakers, just to make sure your audience stays awake and stays engaged with you and your topic. This is a great moment to pause this video and do an exercise. I would like you to choose 3 different ways to start your speech and apply these starts to your topic. So find 3 different powerful ways to start your own speech. Now, the writing guideline that I will discuss with you now is definitely applicable for your speech, but also applicable to other forms of public speaking. So, rule number 1, write as you speak. Often I see students using very academic language and beautiful, complicated sentences. That doesn't work for public speaking. You need to keep in mind that your audience cannot reread what you said. So imagine they missed a little piece or they misunderstood one little thing that you said. They cannot check what it was. So that will leave them puzzled, like, ooh, I missed something. Ooh, I don't understand something. And the moment that happens, there's a great risk of them not paying attention anymore. So see if you can simplify your language. Use spoken language. Then, number 2, see if you can define your main message in maximum 15 words. I know this is hard, especially in the beginning, to really come to the core of what you want to say. But if you're not clear about it, then how will your audience get clear about it? Also, defining your main message at the start of your process will help you to keep your story strong. So you can always check, does this strengthen my main message or does it weaken my main message? Is it contradicting what I want to say or is it supporting it? Then it's important to plan the journey. Already before you have everything written down, see what will be the middle piece, like the main piece of your story. Then see how you will start powerfully. And then also, and I emphasize also, make a very strong conclusion. How many times I've seen a speech build up fantastically, and then at the end, people are like, well, okay, so yeah, I think it's very important, and this was my speech. And they even look surprised, like, I think I'm done now. Completely neglected a powerful, concluding finish. So make sure that you take the opportunity to give that last extra push in your conclusion. So every bit of the journey is equally important. Every good speech has a structure of a problem and a solution. You only have 4 minutes, so I suggest you only discuss one problem and 1 or 2 solutions. But in a longer speech, you will see that there are several problems being discussed. So this is the shape of the structure. It's very important that when you address a problem, that you also offer a solution. You cannot just take people down into the valley of problems and misery and leave them there. It's your job to also give a solution and show the way to the light. Al Pacino does this really well in the video that you watched. First he goes down, down, down. He even says, we are in hell, gentlemen. We are in hell. But inch by inch, we can fight our way back into the light. That's a perfect example of the problem-solution structure. Important here is that you offer a concrete, feasible step. Al Pacino says inch by inch. An inch is very small. It's feasible. That's why you feel hopeful about getting to the solution. Very often I see students say, like, yeah, so what we need is to increase awareness. How do you do that? It's very invisible. It's not concrete. So how can you give concrete steps, concrete feasible solutions? Then a really important writing rule, and don't get me wrong, usually you would follow a writing course of 2 weeks just discussing this number 5, show, don't tell. It is about using graphic, descriptive words instead of abstract, invisible words. Making it visible, making people a witness of what you saw. Think of the video of Michelle Obama. She does it really well. She applied this. She could have said in the fragment that that you watched, she could have said, my dad was a great guy. Although he was sick, he had a great work ethic and a strong will. Would that impress you? Would you remember that? Would that give you any special feelings? Probably not. Now think of the image that you remember from her speech. What do you remember that she described? I remember the father pushing himself up against the sink and slowly buttoning his uniform, although being sick and, weak. And the father slowly climbing up the stairs while they were on top of the stairs waiting to greet him. I remember that, I can see it, I can picture it. And then I can conclude, wow, this man was a really great guy with a strong work ethic and a strong will, despite being so sick. So with a descriptive, more storytelling way of conveying the message, it leaves an imprint, it leaves a picture, and a picture gives a feeling, and that's how we remember. All right, so telling would be, he's a great guy, strong work ethic. You cannot see that, you cannot picture that. But seeing a sick man climbing up the stairs after a long days of work, that has an effect. So where you can, be descriptive. If you share a story, make a picture, draw a picture, make your audience see what you saw. There's also an exercise with this writing rule. So I advise you to pause and apply showing to the moment where you are now. So you can pause the video and then come back after the exercise. All right, rule number 6, share something personal. You don't have to share your whole life story or all your deep feelings about everything, but when you share a message, when you give a presentation, at least show the audience what you think of it, or how it makes you feel, or what shocks you, or what fascinates you. I once gave a personal speech training to a lady who was invited to give a presentation to the board of this super big company that she worked for about the results. So this was a typical, factual, informative presentation. And she thought, like, how will I make, how will I share anything personal here? And then I asked her, what do you think about the results? What do you think, is striking or fascinating? And then she said, well, actually, this trend right here is kind of, making me feel good. It seems like good news. So there you have it. Share what you see, share what you experience, even when the material is not personal or, extremely interesting for you. So share something personal. You're going to give a speech, your personal message, but also in that speech show why you care about it, how it touches you, and why. Why do you think this is important? Okay, make that clear. And then finally, be concise, which may seem easy, but it's not. Once you write your first version of your speech, do a close reading, and with every sentence, check. Does this add strength to my main message, or does this cause fluff? If it causes fluff, remove it. They say writing is cutting. You write your first version and then you cut it until only the strong pieces are left. Also, keep in mind that a good speech has at least 20 versions. So your first version is probably not the last one. Okay, so allow yourself to build, break it down, build again. That's how you make it strong. All right, be concise, because you don't want to waste your audience time. Taking into account all these writing rules, you will be able to write a very good speech to begin with. The homework for next week is to write your first version of your speech and learn the first minute by heart. The online students, you can record this first minute on video and then share it with your buddy before your next tutorial. You give each other feedback so that you have space to improve. If you are a campus student, you can also share the first version with your buddy and perform it to each other via Zoom or when you meet live. So you already have a round of feedback before you meet your group. Learn it by heart. That may seem very difficult, but you will be surprised. You're capable of it. You don't want to risk in those few minutes that you have that you lose track or that you start just rambling about whatever. Okay? You're going to write your speech, you're going to make it so beautiful that you want to learn it by heart. Okay? So make sure you love what you say. In the slides, I add a few tips for the online students for how you can best record yourself. Please look at that list so that you have all the technique right and make the best of your, video possibilities that you have right now. All right, I wish you a lot of luck and make something beautiful for each other.